Hello and welcome to Krista So Crafty. My name is Krista. If this is the first time you're here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. You know, I haven't been in my craft room for a while. I've been very, very busy, as I'm sure all of you are. But I've been getting the itch again. So I had my husband cut me some blocks. Now there's no real measurements on these. I can tell you the size of these ones, but make them whatever size you want. It's all good. So this one is 8.5 by 3.25, and it's like 1.5 wide. You just want it to be able so that it'll sit, okay? This one here is 3.25 by 7.5 by 1.25. This one here, as you can see, it's kind of beveled. It's fine. It's all good. It's a craft. This one is 6.25 by about 1.5 by 1.25. Again, there's no real stickler on the sizes. You just need to have some, I think there's a 2x4s basically. That's what we're going to use. He sanded them all down so there's nice, they're nice and smooth, so we can paint on them. I've got some material picked out here that you can't see. So I got some material with some ribbons. And you know what? I'm just going with what feels good to me. And these are the colors that kind of go with my brain. I've got 4 colors. I'll probably only use those 3. I don't think I'll use this blue. So I will use the kind of the flowered with this checkered plaid ribbon. I have a green plaid ribbon with this kind of tealy color, and then this white floral with this pink. And I think those are what we're going to go with. I had picked out these flowers, but I really don't think they go. This one actually might. This one I think will be okay. You know what? I might find 2 more like this for all of them, but these aren't really the right colors. Well, actually, oh, you know what? That sunflower looks kind of, you can't see what I'm doing. The sunflower kind of looks nice on there. So I'll do the sunflower on there, and I will do this kind of creamy one on, this one here, the pinkish one. I'll put this one on here, and then I just need to find 1 more flower. This one just doesn't go. I've also got some jute. Again, it's just some scrap stuff I have kicking around. I have some scissors. I do have a little sanding block. Now this is by, I don't know how to pronounce it, ZEHIQ. I'll let you take a look at that. So it's a little sanding block, and it's a kit I got off of Amazon. It's a 61-piece micro sanding block. So what it is it's the little Velcro, I guess on the back it's Velcro, but then there's sanding strips on the front, and it just Velcros onto this little sander. And it's been a wonderful addition to my craft room. So I have that available. I've got some paint. I have black and orange and white paint out. I've got a hot glue gun heating up over here, and I think we're ready. I think that's everything. Right? Right. So the main thing is that we need to do is, I guess I should tell you what I'm making. I'm going to make some crows. All right, so I'm just going to pour some paint in the middle here because we're going to need a fair amount of black paint, because I basically want to paint all of these black, and I'm probably going to get all black myself, but that's okay. I'm just going to scooch those. I do have a little rack so that I can put the wood on it when it's dry. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to paint these black. Nothing too extreme, because I saw a picture on, I don't know, probably on Pinterest, and somebody had taken and made some crows out of some 2x4s, and they were just the cutest. So I'm going to take liberties. I didn't come up with this idea, but I'm going to take my liberties, and I'm going to paint these and decorate them up into some crows. And I just thought that they would be some nice fall decor. All right, so I got that side painted, and I did that wrong. You're probably all yelling at me, don't do that, you're not going to be able to hold on to it. I'll flip it over like this. See, just all black. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint the one end. So I guess theoretically, I do not need to paint the top because we're going to put a hat on these guys. So I'm going to paint 3/4 of the way up, and then the rest will be hidden under the material that I'm going to use for the hats. And we're going to paint on a carrot nose. I don't have any wood carrots that look, or pieces of wood that look like carrots. So I'm just going to paint them on, and I think that's going to be just fine. I'll paint some eyes on, and I think they're going to be very cute. Have you been working on any crafts for fall, for Halloween kind of season? I know we're coming up on Halloween right away. And I've got a few decorations up. Maybe I'll take you upstairs and show you around. And I'm just getting the bottom and the sides. And I'll just lay that down there. And this time I'll just go like this. I like Halloween. And you know, we've been having beautiful weather right now, which is amazing because I live in Alberta, and this time of year can be a real flip of a coin to see what kind of weather we're going to have. I mean, we're definitely having the weather that says, you know, it's cold in the morning, so you better be bundling up. And by lunchtime, you're removing clothing, coats, and layers because it's quite warm. And then in the evening, it gets quite cold again. So what's the weather like where you guys are at? I don't mind the cooler weather. I don't like being cold, but I don't mind the cooler weather. It's nice. And you know, right now we still have some fall colors. Most of the trees, I think, have dropped their leaves, but it's still pretty when you go out for a walk. I know some of you live in the warmer climates where it's now getting to be more of a rainy season than a winter, like snow. We don't get as much snow as we used to, but we still get snow. Can you hear my clock ticking? You know, most times I can't hear that clock at all, and then other times it just sounds so loud. Okay, I want to make sure I get into these little crevices. There's a knot on the back of this one. All right, so that one's good. Now let's do this one. I think I grabbed just the right amount of paint too to do this. Which, you know, normally I don't. I usually take way too much. But I usually scrape it back into the container. I was very happy when I had asked my husband, I said, do you have any pieces of wood that I could use to make? And I kind of explained to him what it was I was going to make. And he's like, I think so. So he went out and he brought in a couple pieces, and he says, well, what about these? And I'm like, that'll be perfect. So he took them back outside, and like I said, he sanded them down and made them so that they're not all sharp and whatnot. They're nice and smooth. And he made sure that they were level so that they would stand on a counter or a mantle or something like that. Turn this one over. It's nice to have a handy husband. Does your husband help you out with stuff like this, with craft? I guess in this case, the craft supplies, and these were just in an old container of his that he had of scrap wood, right? Scrap lumber. And so now I'm going to use it because he wouldn't have used it really for anything. Honestly, it probably would have ended up in the fire pit. But now I get to make a craft out of it. Sorry if there's kind of weird shadows, but All right, so you know the one thing I did not get was any type of a cloth or water so that I can, you know, rinse things off, my hands specifically. So I'm just gonna go real quick and grab like a baby wipe or something. I'll be right back. All right, I just grab some baby wipes here. Because I am very much a messy painter. I tend to get paint all over me, but that's okay. There, all right, not too bad actually. And I got a couple drops on the table, so I'll wipe those up. So the only other thing that I would like to do, you know, while this is drying, is I want to take this material and I want to make sure that it's going to, well, I've already kind of laid these out and measured, and I know they're going to fit around. So the idea is I want to make kind of like little toques, and then I'll put some ribbon around, and we're just going to jazz them up a bit. So that is good, and I think I'm going to have to get my heat gun out and use that to help dry the wood so that we can move along with this project. Sometimes I have the patience to sit here and wait as the paint literally dries, and other times I don't. There. Now they're dry, we can move on. All right, so I'm gonna take this and I just want to see. So if this is the bottom, so this is gonna be where the head is. I want to be able to wrap this around just at the top. See, this is this is great for the width around, but it's way too tall. So I'll have to cut some of that off, but that's okay. I'm gonna try using these scissors I have here, but they are crafting scissors and not sewing scissors, so we'll see what they do with the material. I may have to run and get my sewing scissors. All right, let's give this a try. Well, they're cutting it. That's not a terrible thing. All right, so I'm gonna put just a little dab of glue right here. I'm gonna lay that down like so. I'm gonna bring this, can you see what I'm doing? So then I'm just gonna wrap this material up and around here. And I'm not worried about the raw edges because A, it's a craft, and B, it's supposed to look kind of rusticy, like, you know, crows, they're outside, they're flipping around, right? All right, so then if I tie it here, see, so I wanted to kind of tie it here. So I'm gonna cut probably this much off. Let's see if I can, oh, look at that. Perfect. Now I'm just gonna use some twine. And again, there's no measurements for this, just, this is how I craft. I find stuff and I just start playing around and seeing what works best. I can see that I'm gonna have to trim up this top here because I really didn't cut it very straight. So let's do this and we'll tie it tight like that. Let's put a knot in it so it doesn't come undone. And I'm getting paint on me. I must have missed a spot with the heat gun, but that's okay. It's acrylic paint, it just washes right off. This is Deco Art Crafters Acrylic is what I used. For the white, I'm gonna use Apple Barrel, a white. And for the orange, I'm gonna use, what's it called? Acrylic? Anyways, an orange. All different paint. Really doesn't matter what kind of paint you use. It's just crafters paint. So I'm gonna trim these up a little bit. So that's where we're at so far. I think that's looking cute. So now I'm gonna take my ribbon, and this is where this is going to help clean up this bottom edge here a little bit. So I'm just going to see if I can trim off a few of these little loose threads, these really long ones. But other than that, I'm really not too concerned. And then I'm going to measure this out by going around, and then I will snip it. And I will bring out a lighter to just singe the ends. And what this does is it stops the ends of these ribbons from fraying like that. So I'm going to go like this. So let's fold it in half. So that's the center. I'm going to put a little dab of glue right here. Now these are going to be such a quick and easy little project. You could probably whip out a whole bunch of these. Actually, you know what? This would be really fun for a craft day. It'd be a lot of fun for that. I'm just going to flip this over and turn this over like this and put a little glue on the end and flop it. Put that down like that. Oh, now I got strings. And then I'm going to pull this and I'm going to line it up so that it's matching. A little glue here. And put that one like that. Take the glue string off. See, so there, that tidied that up really nice. But see what I meant about this? So let's fix that right now. Now you can make these as, you know, poofy as you want. You could like take them and put little slits so that it kind of looks like it's tasseled or whatever. I'm just going to leave it like this. As soon as I get it somewhat straight, you know. I know it's a craft, but you still want it to look nice. So there, see, that looks good. And then, get this stuff in the garbage. And then what do we need? Right, we need a flower. Well, we don't need a flower, but I think I want to put a flower on here. So this little, oh, you know, this is just a little flower, but it's got the little tag or the stem, I guess, not a tag. It's a bit long. So I'm going to cut that off so that it's closer. And then I'm going to put a little daub of glue on the back so that it doesn't come apart. I'm just going to let that sit for a second to set. Now, he needs a face. He, she, whatever it is. It needs a face. So let's get some white going because we want some white for the eyes. So I need to shake that some more, apparently. Might need to actually grab a different paint. This feels very watery, which means it's probably very old. Let's see what this is like. Oh yes, this will work. So I'm going to be using the Crafters Acrylic White instead. And let's, oh boy. First of all, let's get all these white little pieces cleaned up so that it doesn't get stuck on our scarecrow. There we go. All right, so I just have a little tiny, a bit of a chiseled, I don't know if you can see that brush, and I'm going to draw on some eyes. So I'm gonna go like so. Sometimes I turn it upside down and I do the circle the other way. I just feel like I have more control that way. And this one I'm giving him big eyes. Giving him great big eyeballs. And then I'll do the other eye right about here. I'll show you in just a second. Let's see. I mean, I could have used my Cricut and cut out some eyes. But I just wanted this to be just a craft project. I didn't want to have to do, you know, get out the vinyl and the cutter. And there's time and a place for that. And I just didn't want to do that today. Okay, so there's his eyeballs, the start of his eyeballs. And then let's give him, just going to wipe the excess paint off there. Let's give him some, eyebrows, some expression, I guess. So let's go like this. So here's a funny story for you. When I paint, I tend to hold my breath, especially when I'm doing smaller stuff. And so it makes it fun when I'm trying to talk and paint. So there's his little eyebrow thingies. So let's put the cap back on here for now. My goodness, that's really making a mess. There we go. So I'm going to wipe the paint off of here. And I'm going to put another coat on this on the eyes because I don't know if you can see how they're showing the black through. I just want to make sure that they're really white. Now, if you had an acrylic pen, that would be a wonderful thing to use on this. I don't, so I'm not going to use that. But if you did, you could use your acrylic pens. So let me just get this another coat on here. It's dry. It doesn't take long because it's just a real thin layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry, and as it's drying, we're going to paint on his nose. So we'll wipe that white paint off of there. And I have a different brush for the orange. Let's put the lid on that white. All right, now I'm going to give him white stuff off of there, but paint is terrible for that. Give him kind of a, not a carrot nose, but just like a beak, right? Oh, I got too much paint on here. Definitely gonna have to do a couple coats of paint using the orange because it's very thinnish, if you know what I mean. So let's point that a bit more. Turn it around. Don't be scared to turn your project upside down or left or right so that you can get it the right angle. All right. There we go. I hope it's not looking like a black snowman because that's not what it is. I think he's going to be okay. All right, so I'm going to set this brush here. I'm going to grab that white one again and open this over here so it kind of contains that mess. I'm just going to put one more coat, I think, of white on here because I can still see the black through it. That's looking better. That's exactly what it needed. There we go. So we'll set that over there. I'll get the orange out again. Yeah, the orange is going to take probably, I don't know, 3 coats maybe. I'm not trying to put it on real thin, but I don't want it streaky either. All right, so let's let that dry. Okay, what else do I need to do? I think what I'm going to do is find another smaller brush, maybe like this one. I think that'll work. And I think I want to put some lines down each side. So I'm just going to put this back on, give it a shake. I'm just using the paint right in the lid rather than dumping it into my little container there. I could. All right, so let's put some paint on here. Kind of moisten that brush up a bit. And now I'm just going to put some dashes. So I'm just putting some little dashes down the side. Now, of course, this is the one that's curved. It's kind of curved, got the beveled edge, I guess you might want to call it. Here. Just something like that, just to give it some definition. And now I'm going to do this other side. It's nice to put some a little bit of definition like this, because otherwise because it's black, it just kind of fades off into nothing there. So that just kind of gave it some edges. So that's kind of cute. The birds have mouths, but it's on the beak. So we're not going to put a mouth. All right, I need a small brush for the black. I don't know about you, but I always end up using lots of brushes. And I have lots of brushes, which is wonderful. I need another small one. I just need a small one, maybe that one. I think this one will work. So get some black on here and then wipe it off. If I had water in here, I'd be dabbing it in the water, but I forgot. So now what we're going to do is going to give this little guy some pupils. It's coming along. It's looking good. Okay, I got too much paint on there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, oh, I got an itchy nose. Add some little, oh, hold on. I'm not quite ready to add the black on the beak yet because it's still not quite dark enough. See, now these other two, when I go to do them, I will do them all in kind of, what is it called? You know, when you do all the eyes on the projects and then all the nose, the beaks, glue on all the hats, do it all in succession. What's the word? He is going to be so cute. All right, now what I'm going to do, because I have that paint on there, I'm going to use that same ribbon and I'm going to go around the bottom, I think. Let's give him, so we'll cut that off about there. And again, I'll use my lighter just to seal off those ends. It doesn't take but a second and those ends are sealed. I just have to be careful that I don't dunk my hand in his eyes as I'm putting this on. Now, we'll go right about there. So I'm going to put a little dab of glue right there. And bring this down like so. Yes, that'll be good. Squish that glue. And then we will bring this around. Now I can't lay him down because his eyeballs are wet. And I don't want to wreck him. So I'll just put a little bit of glue on the end of that ribbon. And stick that down. A little bit of glue on that part of the ribbon. And again, you don't need very much. Like that. There we go. And then I think I could make a bow out of this. Let's try. Be kind of cute if he had a bit of like a bow tie. I think this might be too much. Well, actually, it's pretty good. It will be okay. So let's get this end. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this in half and I'm going to make like a cylinder shape, a round shape. Like that. And then we'll just put it together like this. And I'm going to cut one more little piece off of here. And seal those ends. And then I think if we go like this, actually let's put a little dab of glue in the middle to hold them together. And then we'll wrap this around like this. Oh, it's just a little bit too big. So let's trim a little bit off. And hit it with the fire. And then I will put a little glue there and a little glue there. And then wrap that. And then we'll give him a little bow. I think that's going to be very cute. See, just gives it some little dimension. It's kind of cute. All right, I think I'm going to blast his eyes with the heat gun, just so that they, you know, dry a little bit faster. And then I can go in with my white brush and we can put some little dots. And then I'm just going to put some little highlights. Hopefully you can see that. All right, and now I'm going to go in with the black. Where's the lid for the black? Oh, right. There's no lid for the black. It's just there in the container. So what I'm going to do, have my black, I'm going to get a little bit of black and I'm going to go around the edge and just put some dashes on his beak. Just like that. You know what? I think he needs some little nose holes. For lack of better words, I don't know what they are. Like that. I think he's kind of cute. Well, there we have one done. So now that I've got all my paints out and brushes out and all this mess, I'm going to go ahead and do up the second one. Sorry, the other two. I have two more here to do. And when I'm all done, I'll bring you back and show you. They're just fun. Here you go, you guys. Aren't they cute? They just each have their own little personality. I think they're just wonderful. Very, very cute. I'm so happy with them. Are they something that I'm going to enjoy as time goes on? Absolutely. I think they're so cute. We'll see if they actually get to stay at my house. Who knows? Maybe one of my kids will borrow them long term. With these, you can take creative freedom, absolutely. You could, you know, if you had somebody that would cut out some noses for you, so give you some more dimension for the beaks. Sorry, I keep calling it a nose. You could absolutely do that. You could make them winter ones. You could make winter crows and have, you know, like winter material and poinsettias, and I think that'd be just so cute, you know. But I love these. They were a lot of fun to make, and you know, I think the creative freedom that you could take with these, you could just make them your own, because you're going to have different material, different flowers, different embellishments. You don't even need flowers. Maybe you want, oh, you know what would have been really cute? If you take one of these and you put all the gems and stuff on it, make it like a real high class little crow. So many ways you could go. You know what else would be really cute? If you had a pair of glasses, you know, the little round ones, that would be cute on that. There's so many different ways that you could go with these. I hope that you enjoyed this video. And you know what? If you give these a try, please come over to my Facebook page and share some of your creations. I would love to see them, and I know everyone else would love to as well. Because you know what? Like I said, they're just too cute. Just too cute. Thank you for joining me today on Krista So Crafty. I hope you enjoyed this little craft. And if you did, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel. If you want, share my video. I do upload videos minimum once a week. Thank you again for joining me, and happy crafting.